This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom really is brought to you by...
What the fuck?
What's up, dude?
One of my renters broke the toilet again. That dude takes giant shits. Now I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Why don't you hire a property management company or something to take care of that stuff?
Because they suck, and they take 10%.
You know, our dude Hank owns and manages Heritage Realty Partners. I think he said he only charges 5%, and he visits each property at least once a month.
That's right. He's always posting beers from the road. You have his number?
Actually, I do. His personal number is 805-451-5734.
Perfect. Now he can deal with my renter's big shits.
Heritage Realty Partners.
For all your property management and investment needs. Attention, troops. Are you tired of bland rations ruining your battlefield experience? Well, fear not. Introducing Foo Bar, the hilarious military nutrition bar that will have you laughing all the way to victory. Inspired by the chaos of World War II and armed with a sense of humor, Foo Bar is the secret weapon that will keep your taste buds entertained while keeping you fueled for action.
I thought nothing could make me smile in the midst of war, but then I discovered Foo Bar. It's like a party in my mouth.
Even in the most intense battles, I'd sneak a bite of Foo Bar and it would instantly lift my spirits. Those were some seriously funny flavors.
That's right, folks. Foo Bar is not your ordinary nutrition bar. It's a comedy show for your taste buds, with flavors that will have you in stitches. Whether you're dodging bullets or swapping jokes, with your comrades, Foo Bar is there to add some much-needed laughter to the battlefield. It's the taste that keeps on tickling.
I'll never forget the time I shared a Foo Bar with my squad. We laughed so hard the enemy thought we were nuts. Best morale booster ever.
So, fellow soldiers, don't let the seriousness of war get you down. Embrace the laughter with Foo Bar and turn every battlefield into a comedy club. Foo Bar, the hilarious nutrition bar that kept our troops smiling during World War II. Order yours now and taste the punchline of victory with every bite.
Good.
Dude,
Good and delicious.
It's crazy.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. It's got Zach and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
BVK, how y'all doing, folks? It is just a few days before the Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to go ahead and give some respect to those who have served our country and fallen in combat. In honor of Memorial Day, we're going to drop the movie Saving Private Ryan, one of the most famous war movies of all time. That's what we're going to be talking about this week. And just let me start off with a little alert here that while we might have things to say about this movie, we are in no way or shape or form going to take away from the sacrifices that the veterans have done in all of the wars that the United States has fought. So if we are critical of this movie, it is completely about this movie. It's not about the American troops or anything like that, or any of the things that World War II veterans went through. So just want to throw that out there so that you understand that this is a podcast that gets loose and fun. And while we are tackling a very serious movie, our criticisms of that movie are specific to that rather than our criticisms of anything going on with what our troops have done in the past. So does that make sense to you all?
It's possible I may have watched the wrong movie because I watched Saving Ryan's Privates.
Oh, fuck. Is that... Those troops are having a grand old time.
There were definitely some fallen soldiers.
There's a lot of bayonet sticking in that one.
Storming a different kind of beach.
Oh boy. See, that's what we're saying. We're gonna play a little loose and fast with this, and we mean no disrespect to any veterans or anybody that's lost anybody in any war.
Of course not.
So
Does that mean I'm not allowed to criticize the armed forces at all? Like, am I prohibited?
no, we can have
Are you trying to
Real
censor? Are you
conversations.
trying to censor my First Amendment rights?
Elon Musk. He called me earlier and he's like, dude, just chill.
So I'm just saying.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying I got rights. You know what? And you know what? Paradoxically, they fought and died for my right to criticize them.
This is true.
That is fact.
This is true. All right, folks, we are doing the movie Saving Private Ryan. But before we get to that, we've got a few things to talk about. A few interesting things
There's
to talk
some
about.
excitement in the air.
First off, we are part of the Deluxe Edition Network, and the Deluxe Edition Network is a community of podcasters who have a variety of topics. They talk about all sorts of different things. You've got sports, you've got comedy, you've got true crime, you've got just shooting the shit, you've got a lot of drinking going on, and the pods of the month for the Deluxe Edition Network are the Horsing Around podcast, as well as our friends in Oakdale, the Real Drunks. That is Jake, that is Matt, that is Alyssa. They are great people. Listen to their pods, enjoy them, spread the love, share it on your socials that the Deluxe Edition Network has the greatest pods in the history of mankind. A person kind.
Whatever kind.
Whatever kind. Alien kind.
Horse kind.
So,
Aren't you also doing something coming up here, Scotchback?
Scotchback, I
very-
see a little twinkle in your eye.
Speaking of Oakdale, California.
Scotchy claws.
Yeah, your brother's band is going to be playing in Oakdale at Dying Breed on June 24th. And I'm very excited because he's going to let me play in his band.
Oh my God. I'm totally going to hack your guys' like Spotify and stuff and just change the name from Flying Blind, parentheses, Brad Brothers Band, and just let it work. You guys might get some more listens.
It's funny, we were talking about it today. We were doing some group text, talking about ticket sales and all that stuff. And like Keith's like, because I'm doing all the socials and all that stuff. And Keith's like, yeah, we should give Scott like 5% of the ticket sales for doing all this work or whatever. And I'm like, guys, look, I'm just trying to make some extra money for you guys, for my friends. And, oh, by the way, the name is Scotchbeck's Flying Blind now.
There you go.
But yeah, no, Flying Blind, we are playing June 24th. And ticket sales, I mean, as we're recording this, today, and this is a week or so before it airs, they could be sold out by the time you hear this. I don't know. But there'll be tickets at the door. And it's going to be great.
I mean, there's 500 tickets total for sale.
Right.
And that is going to sell out. I mean, think about what that show is going to be
They're
like.
half gone as of today.
At Dying Breed is a great venue.
Yeah.
The show's going to be fucking awesome.
What I'm saying is, folks, some of you might be thinking, oh, I've seen Flying Blind before. And it's like, you know what? I'm looking at Scotch right now, and there's a sparkle in his eye, and it's not just because he's getting laid a bunch right now, but he's I think excited. I think I think Flying Blind feels right now like this is a show to just really. They're gonna just kind of just waggle their dicks a little bit. They're like, we are still a badass band that can rock the house, and that's what you guys are planning on.
We
doing.
haven't had a public show like this for a while, and dude, we're excited. We're gonna pull out some surprises and play some crazy covers. Like, we've done some shit in the past that people are like, wow, you guys play that? Okay. And
it's a 21 and over show, so again, there's not going to be any children present. So Flying Blind, when there's no children present, you never know what the fuck might happen. Like,
can I just say just very quickly? I know
is this guy back from shit?
Oh, yeah. This is Zach. I've wiped myself and I'm back.
Zach.
I just have to say that this isn't a visual medium, but Scott's beard is so trimmed like nice right now. It's like
kind of pointy, but
not even Scotchy clausy. It's like
these guys are fucking looking at me right now. All three of them are staring at me. It's really fucking awkward.
It's like I usually call you Scotchy Claus, but I'm gonna start calling you Daddy Claus. Bro. Your fucking beard is looking tight. Right
I got something in my sack for you, buddy.
All right, so we got Flying Blind, and
yes, get your tickets on eventbrite.com. If you search for Flying Blind, Eventbrite, Dying Breed, you put those words into a Google search, you're going to get pointed towards those tickets if they are available.
You know
and some weird porno.
How restaurants have Michelin stars, and like it's like worth the trip to go to this restaurant. That's how you get a Michelin star. Well, I'm giving you the guarantee. This is worth the plane flight. So if you listen to this and you're in Ohio or wherever, it's worth the plane ticket. I'm putting my guarantee on that right now.
I promise you, this is a legit professional band, folks. We're not talking about some like they played a garage or a wedding here and there. These guys have been playing together for 20 plus years. They are just savages.
And don't bury the lead. They've played a lot of garages and weddings too.
A lot of good little garage rock.
So what else do we got going on? Something in August is happening, isn't it, Brad?
Speaking of garages.
Oh yeah, if you like karate in the garage, and I believe you all do, especially if you've been to Last Call Brewing, the BVK crew is going to be hosting the second annual motherfucking Catalina wine mixer at the State Theater in Modesto. This is a crazy event, folks. You're going to be watching the classic movie Step Brothers, but you're also going to get fed some delicious sushi, some hors d'oeuvres. You're going to get some great drinks from Last Call Brewing, from Dying Breed Brewing, from other breweries, as well as other wineries. It's a wine mixer, so you got to have some wine.
Motherfucking Catalina wine mixer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say Will Ferrell's going to be there, but he might be there.
You know what?
You never know.
You heard it here.
It could happen.
It could happen.
Anything can happen at the motherfucking Catalina wine mixer.
It's very possible.
And I will say this, that there's going to be an opera singer, maybe performing something from the movie. There's going to be some trivia contests. There might be some merch giveaways.
If they set up a drum set, I'll do the drum solo.
Shit.
I don't give a shit.
I'll throw my fucking ball sack on the drums. I don't give a shit. So
That's actually a way to dampen the sound to make it a little crispier. Yeah.
And
Just
you
throw your
know,
balls on
Done it.
when you got BBK in charge, it's going to be silly. There's going to be some craziness. It's going to be a lot of alcohol flowing. Get a driver, because you're probably going to be going home fucked up, or you might have an incident in the bathroom. You know,
Yeah,
who knows what's going
it
to
could happen. You might get dysentery.
I was thinking more of
BBK
getting
crew
laid,
there. All right.
but you know, that kind of
know,
shit might go down.
We got Zach's coming off a lot of unpleasant bathroom time.
Some PTSD right now.
Straight.
When you talk
straight
about
to the-
bathroom, I just fucking think about shit.
Just exploding toilets. All right, so is that all of our house cleaning?
Pretty much, I think.
I don't think that's house cleaning. Can we also just throw a quick in? If you're a new listener to Bez Video Kingdom, do we already do?
Oh yeah, hi new people.
Hi, nice to see you.
We're nice.
Tell your
hang out
kids
with
to
us.
listen.
Yeah, you see if you can get your elementary school kids hooked like you were giving them cigarettes.
Bring them to the motherfucking Catalina wine mixer. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, but if you're new, you know, share us on your socials. Join us on our socials. Text us to your friends. Don't just tell them. You know, find that little link button. Subscribe. Put us in your. You know, share the little linky in your little text messages.
And if you're a young kid out there that's just starting to listen and haven't seen Saving Private Ryan yet, just search in your Google bar Saving Ryan's Privates, search, and check it out, and then listen to the rest of the podcast, because we're going to spoil the shit out of it.
So anyway, if you're new listeners, welcome. Go check out if you want to know why we're called Bez Video Kingdom, go check out the little intro ditty that we've got back there somewhere. All our episodes are kind of evergreens. You know, you pick movies you like, and you know, draft categories you like, and go watch them. You know, you don't even have to go in the right order. You can go backwards if you want. Sometimes some people like to go in reverse.
Definitely. I like to back up to stuff.
Like toilets. All right.
Or his backyard, or you know, anything, anywhere
Brad.
he can spew.
Hey Brad, what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about the movie Saving Private Ryan.
Oh,
Yeah. This is Hanks. We talked about we're going to bring the Mr. Hanks into this pod because we had done him no service yet, and being being Northern Californians, and the fact that Tom Hanks is a true blue Northern Californian.
Have I told my...
sorry. What do you mean? Where is he from?
Yeah, where's he from?
He's
from Piedmont. Have I told my story about Tom Hanks yet?
Look at that. You just dropped it. Like, what, you motherfuckers?
No,
You guys didn't know he's Northern Californian?
I didn't know that.
So, quick story, and I may get a tiny bit of the details wrong, but this is the way that I remember it. So my mom's from Oakland, California, and her mom, my grandmother, was the like, you know, the lady that is in the office that like does attendance, and like you would go and like talk to her if you were late or something like that.
The attendance lady.
Yeah. So she's like in the office at I believe Skyline High School. I'm not positive what high school, might be Piedmont High School, but her TA, my grandmother's TA, was Tom Hanks.
Tommy Hanks.
Isn't that fucking
Little Tommy.
cool?
He attended Skyline in Oakland.
There you go. See, I got it fucking right.
Skyline.
Skyline High School.
Was he the one that like would like run messages to the
Yeah,
classes and
exactly. She
stuff?
was like, Tommy, come here. And he was like, hello.
I got to go to the principal's office.
But that's a true story. My grandma worked in the office at Skyline High School, and Tom Hanks was her TA. So that's a fucking connection right there.
Okay.
Well, there you go. So yeah, we wanted to bring Tommy Hanks back, and we've got just recently we did
Forrest Gump.
and now we're doing good old Saving Private Ryan. And I would call this an event movie, right? This is what would you consider an event movie, where it's like you kind of like almost pump yourself up to go to. You're like, oh fuck, I'm going to see Saving Private Ryan. Like this is like as the word started to spread, like this movie is intense as fuck.
I remember being told like, oh my God, it's so heavy and like so crazy. And then when I actually went and watched it, I came out of the first scene, like I was still sitting in my chair, obviously. And I was like, holy shit, like this is fucking wild.
So I had heard specific. So I actually really remember the conversation mostly just being about the first 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I don't. It wasn't that it was a negative commentary on the rest of the movie. It was just like the entire conversation was this first 30 minutes might be the most intense, realistic 30 minutes of any film ever, on any topic.
Well,
right?
there's all kinds of news stories about veterans not being able to handle it, and it was
Right.
too realistic.
The Department of Defense actually set up like a veterans like hotline for folks to
How
like, call
could
in
you,
and talk.
if you had like lived through that, how could you watch that scene and be cool? Like,
Right.
I don't think it's possible. I mean, I obviously wasn't there, and it's wild to me to watch. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand how you could A, think like I'm going to go see this movie, and then B, watch it and be okay. I just, fuck, man.
And especially, I mean, without like, you don't get, I mean, you obviously see Tom Hanks' face. You see a couple familiar faces, maybe if you're into movies, you kind of see I know that guy. But as soon as it starts, it's just soldiers, and it could be like you're just there with a bunch of soldiers, and you have no clue who these people are, no emotional investment, and you immediately are like, what the fuck is going on? Like these people are just. How did anybody even ever do this? Like
when they open that, the very first time when they open that little drawbridge thing down, and like 40 dudes just get killed, and you're like,
mowed down.
oh shit.
yeah.
And then
things were serious.
Then they show the view from the turret, and actually they just show them just like,
Yeah.
it's just right there in front of them, and all I got to do is aim right at it. and
It's
just
fucking sitting
unload
duck.
it.
It's
like
literally.
it's like a horrible video game,
Right.
Like,
Yes.
really, I mean, it looks like that.
an-
where
And
Easy
you're like going,
fucking video
like
game.
how could that be the plan? Like we're gonna roll up on these little slow little boats, and there's gonna be machine guns pointed all over the beach, and here you go. Just
we'll lower the door just
Yeah.
nice and slow, and just
So-
our heads
But
are
it-
just popped out.
in that sense, you're like, how did this work? I mean, it works,
Yeah.
But
right?
it's like when you watch it, you're thinking like, this was the plan? Like, is this really the fucking plan? Because we had planes, right? I don't understand.
No, they bombarded the beach like crazy. Like,
Yeah,
They did, right?
And some of it wasn't as successful. There's certain beaches where people just legitimately walked on.
Oh, okay.
The Normandy invasion was multiple locations where
Yeah.
they were landing. Omaha, Utah Beach were the two where it was like the
A
craziest.
massacre. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's
But
fucking
there's many beaches
crazy.
where they basically landed with very little fighting at all.
So I think they did a really good job showing the scope and how big it was, but I have a feeling it was a lot bigger as far as like it was just numbers that you think like how could they get through there? And there's certain shots where it almost looks like there's only one boat in that little area. I think there's probably a lot more. That they just couldn't show. They still had like 1,500 extras or something on
To get out of the
set
water
this whole thing.
quick, I felt
Yeah.
like the getting out of the water was the toughest part. I mean, from there, it's like, I don't know, man. It was fucking wild. It's a wild ride. Just the very first scene is a wild ride. I was kind of like, full disclosure, I was doing other stuff sort of while I was watching it, but as soon as that like first scene hit, like I stopped what I was doing and watched it all the way until they cut back and they're doing where they're sending the letters to the people.
Yeah, it's a hard 25 minutes or whatever it is, 30 minutes.
Yeah. And it's you know, it's one of those things where this is where the movie making where the directing and the movie making here really change. It takes it to a whole other level, right? Because you know and you hear, right, how bloody it was, and there are ways you could shoot this scene that would be impactful, but it wouldn't be what it is, right? Like you could imagine you just even just imagine that the view, the entire scene was 15 or 20 minutes that was mostly from the turret, right? I mean, that's kind of horrific, but if you really think about it, that's only horrific because you keep jumping back to the perspective in different perspectives, right? You see the view coming off of it. You see the view from underwater. You see the view of people that you sort of like from laying in the beach, right? So it puts you in the position of having, you can't avoid the discomfort of imagining yourself in the situation, and that's what makes it impactful, right? It's not the grand loss of life. It's not the sort of, you know, brutality with which the killing is happening. It's the just outright dread that you are put into of the idea that like everyone is dying around you, and if I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm thinking in the moment, my odds of making it here are just effectively
so not
zero.
only that, not only are odds like extremely low, but like the part that is insane to me is the people that continue to push forward and don't just curl up and fucking are like, all right, we're fucked. You know what I mean? Like it's just
how do you what do you
seemingly
do?
insurmountable odds at a couple of times where you're just like, okay, like they're just shooting. You're just sitting there and you're just getting shot, and everyone you know is getting shot all around you. Like,
what's your option? Jump back in the ocean and like swim away?
I don't know what you do, but like, and you see sort of some different perspectives where you see like the Tom Hanks and his buddy character where like they're still trying to push forward and they have a plan kind of, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and then you see like Giovanni Ribisi and he's just like, fuck, we're fucked. You know what I mean? And like, I thought they did a good job of kind of showing the way that different people sort of react in that situation, which, you know, I mean, I say this about the military all the time, is that I am so fucking glad that there are people that can do that kind of thing, because I'm not fucking one of them. You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, I would just be paralyzed with fear in that type of situation. And it's fucking amazing to me. And I will always, you know, give props to the people that do the things that they do for the military, police, all of that shit, firemen, all of that kind of stuff is just absolutely amazing to me, that people would like you know, our guests will tell us later, like just that put duty ahead of themselves. You know what I mean? They know that what they're going to do is important and that it has to be done and somebody's got to do it. And that's just fucking insane to me.
All right, so I gotta moving it back to the bigger movie, Scott. I want to get your take on this, just at random, but I'm curious.
As a, you know, age appropriate World War II guy.
No, I just want to put you on the spot here and answer this question.
Okay. Yeah. How did you dodge a draft?
I fucking hate you guys.
I don't think Santa Claus is eligible for a draft.
He got exemption for taking toys to kids.
So chop off the first 30 minutes. Start the movie when they, you know, like we fade in and like they've just landed and beat the lines of defense and they've kind of finally hit the camp.
Okay.
And then the movie just proceeds as the rest of the movie.
Right.
Is this movie, where does this movie fall, right? Because it's, I think, you know, people think of it as one of the great war movies of all time.
Okay.
If you take away the first 30 minutes, where does it fall? Like, how far does this movie fall?
It falls a lot to me. Because there's definitely parts of the movie that I kind of wanted to skip, you know, through, because and not necessarily because it's bad, but there's some brutal scenes, like you know, when they lose the doc in that whole battle when Giovanni Ribisi dies, that is so when he's crying for his mama and all that stuff, that's just so brutal. It's like I didn't want to sit through it again. And
just in case you're a new listener to BBK, just understand we do spoil the fuck out of
spoil
movies. And
Pause
we
now,
don't really
go watch
say
it.
that, but yeah, if you haven't seen this, if you're just like, I want to check out Saving Private Ryan, go watch it. And we always say we're going to talk about the movie as if you watched it. So just understand that.
I don't know. It just in general, that it has to have that opening scene. That's what sets the whole scene.
But I mean, I'll
the last battle definitely
but I mean,
makes up for it.
But in some ways, right? Like the opening scene, I don't think sets up the movie, right? In the sense that it's not important to the plot, right? It's not important to the rest of the movie.
But it is. I mean, that's
How
the
so,
whole
though?
thing. I mean, they lose.
Ryan dies. One
They
of
lose-
the brothers
Okay,
dies.
but you could literally, easily create that plot tension,
But I think
without having to see the scenes.
What it does is set the tone of brutality for what's happening, right? And it just, I mean, it really.
But the rest of the movie isn't overly brutal.
I mean, there's some shit going on.
There's some, but it's not like that's not the defining feature.
I just think that from a technical perspective, there's so much that goes on in that first scene that I think is really iconic and groundbreaking.
You sort of
no,
get
I agree.
some character development for Ribisi and for the
you
fucking.
you see
for
Tom
the-
Hanks, his leadership,
Yep.
and you know,
Tom Sizemore is right there, like as his right hand man.
Yep.
Like
the guy the sniper
Well,
guy, you kind of get to see his
Barry
deal.
Pepper, yeah.
Okay, so I get all that. I guess even setting that aside, right? Like let's just say
Val Kilmer talks about family.
let's just
Val Kilmer. Did you say
Val Kilmer.
I mean,
Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel.
Dom
How did
Toretto,
Val
bro.
Kilmer
all
jump
of a
out of
sudden,
my
all of a
mouth.
sudden we're talking Willow.
Dom Toretto.
Dom Toretto talks about family.
No, I guess my point is more. I mean, even setting aside the fact that say it's connected. All my point is just like I think people remember Saving Private Ryan as this great movie. I actually think that if you just take away that first scene or you make it much shorter and much more basic, it's kind of it's like okay. So Nick, our beloved previous co-host, and I were recently like standing around chatting about Spielberg. And I think we both kind of like came to the conclusion that neither of us thinks he's that great.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Hot take, but I'm just saying, like and maybe more to the point, neither of us were like, yeah, his best shit is the serious stuff. So like, there's I would make the case that in this movie, this chunk of movie is as good as it gets. There's stuff in Schindler's List that like is as impactful as it gets, but the best stuff that Spielberg does for me are the movies that are a little more fun, right? The Raiders, the Indiana Jones movies, 1 through 3 anyway. Catch Me If You Can, Jaws, E.T.
I'm a big fan of Minority Report. I really like that.
Yeah, so like for me, Spielberg, I think is at his best when he doesn't have to be too serious.
I really am.
I like it too.
I enjoy that movie.
Love some Cruise. No, I'm just saying I think Spielberg's actually better when it's like it's okay to be a little campy. Because I think the serious movies, he's not able to totally avoid the camp, like a tiny bit of it, and it ruins it for me.
He can definitely throw some camp in where you're just like, why?
It's a
did
little
you have to put
too
that
like
in?
saccharine, like you know what I mean. And I think there's parts of Saving Private Ryan that have that, where I'm like,
there's definitely some scenes with like the non-war stuff.
Yep.
That's like really syrupy.
Yep.
For sure.
And I'm just saying, I think this movie is forgettable without the first 30 minutes. I don't know. That's my hot take.
There's still some great technical stuff though,
Definitely.
even in outside of that first scene. I mean, the tanks coming over the mortar holes and stuff when they're like it comes rising over them, and just shots like that are just fucking impressive. And like, I mean, to have like the ability to just sniper scene when Barry Pepper is trying to kill the German sniper, like I mean, just that whole search and like. There's just so many little things that I still really like outside of that first scene. I think it's still a classic of a movie.
If we all go
even
back
without it.
to the first time that we saw this, do we all agree that we didn't know that was Matt Damon?
You mean like
I was
once
try- I
you
was-
saw Matt Damon?
I was trying to
man
think
guy.
about that, and I can't remember if I knew him or not at the time. Like, because
Good Will Hunting had already come out.
Had just come out.
you mean
I'm saying like the old man at the beginning.
The little switcheroo.
You're
The
saying-
switcheroo.
Yeah. You're supposed to think it's Hanks,
They
right?
completely
Yeah.
are trying to make you think, unless you're like a psychotic, like he does have a little 101st Airborne pin on
But when
his
you
shirt.
watch him, when you watch it now, you're like, oh, it does look like Matt Damon.
Oh yeah.
Like I can see it.
Yeah.
No, that is Matt Damon.
It is Matt Damon in costume, I believe.
Yeah.
In old man makeup.
It's old man makeup.
No, that's
Scott saying no.
That's
That's Matt Damon.
That's an actor.
It's an
Matt
actor
Damon.
named Matt Damon.
He happens to be named Matt Damon, but it's an old man.
Right.
I swear to God, I thought it was Matt Damon.
Yes, but no, the Tom Hanks, they try to, they obviously trick you. They want to like, and I think that's part of like the whole, we can start this now. The idea of starting the movie like that, it makes it a little bit more schmaltzy than I think it should be. Like I
just think
really
you put
don't
yourself. What year did this
I
come out?
do not
Bingo,
like
dude.
the
98.
I do not like the whole a whole cemetery scene from the front and the back.
Hate it.
Are just unnecessary.
That's such a 1998 thing to do, though.
No, it's such a Spielberg thing.
I think it's very
Nowadays,
Spielberg.
not, but like, I mean, that's like a Titanic thing to do. There's a lot of movies that kind of had that sort of formula where it was like,
This movie needs
here's
to
the
start
Survivor.
Omaha
I see
Beach,
that.
D-Day, June 7th, 1942, and just needs to start right there.
I couldn't be more on board.
I'm sorry,
with that
1944, not 1942.
Yeah.
Get it?
No,
straight, bro.
it's better if you do it like the Tarantino. It's like 42.
Just
Scott, what year
change
was it when you turned 22? What year was it?
Fuck off.
So I guess I think the
I
movie,
said 7th, June 6th. I fucked up.
that's awesome.
You're really
Way to go,
fucking this up. Are you a
historians.
history teacher?
You would imagine I know something about history.
I
I
mean,
know something about beer.
I think the point. I mean, I agree. There's lots of great things about the movie. Maybe it's sort of still a classic, and maybe it just gets the Spielberg bump, right? Because Spielberg, gets the bump by this time. But I don't know. For me,
I don't think this movie is a classic by any means because Spielberg's name. I don't care what director's name's attached to this.
Right.
It's going to be a classic. I don't think it has anything to do with Spielberg,
hard to disagree.
except for the fact that Spielberg is amazing with his creative camera techniques, his creative shooting of the scenes, and obviously I'm sure he's involved in the editing in some way as well, which I think is all amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I it's hard to divorce it, but I will say that this time again, as soon as I got past the opening scene and things calmed down, I was much less excited going forward. I was like, okay, I was really excited to watch that, and I realized now I'm kind of like, I'm going to get through this. There'll be some fun parts, but
Well, the first episode's always the best.
that's not true at all. It's almost literally the opposite of what's true.
All right, should we get? Well, we're not going to call Steven over because Nate's insulted him too much, and Steven just walked out.
Bro,
so-
we haven't even talked about Bridge of Spies yet.
Spielberg was supposed to be here. He was walking up and he heard Nate talking and he just walked away. So you guys are going to have to settle for our friend Lieutenant Dan. So he's going to come on in just a second.
Pull up a chair and grab yourself a drink. We'll hypothesize what directors think. Maybe sometimes get a guest makes us look good. Let's drink, laugh, and pretend we know what we're doing. Drinking with the director, brought to you by Last Call
Lieutenant Dan, since last time you were on, we've added some little jingles. What do you think?
Yeah, they're great, man. I think you guys had some jingles last time, but these are a little more serious or a little better, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, we're improving day by day.
Production value is what we're going for.
Lieutenant Dan,
Yeah.
I got to start off by saying you are a part of the most popular BVK pod of all time, which is Training Day, and I'd like to think it's because of you. And so welcome back to the podcast, man. How you doing?
Good, thank you. That's still the most popular viewed, huh?
It's right there with our first episode and Training Day, like go back and forth for the sort of the title. But yeah, Training Day, people love it.
It's either you or Denzel, one or the other.
It's hard to say. And so one of the reasons we have Lieutenant Dan on, we're having him on this time and why we had him on last time is not only is Dan and Brad and I have been friends since what, preschool?
Like 3 years old, yeah.
Yeah, so we went to preschool together, and Dan had a couple of different life experiences that we didn't. So right out of high school, or a couple of years out of high school, he went into the military. I feel like you always like that. That was a foregone conclusion. Like you were like, at some point you were going to go in the military, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it was probably never any doubt for me. I always wanted to. I saw Starship Troopers and that's from.
And you wanted to be a Marine, correct? But there was a unfortunate incident with your arm.
I went in when I was 19 because I tried to go into the Marines. It took for almost a year. I tried to get into the Marines, and my dad had been in the Marines, so that was really the connection for that one. But I had broken both of my arms when I was a kid, so neither one goes straight all the way, which doesn't hinder me in any way, but just didn't go all the way straight. And so I went through the whole process where you kind of like challenge it to get in. And at the end, I couldn't get into the Marines, and then I applied for the Army, who actually is usually a little more picky, but then it's always politics too, so it depends on the recruitment, like how many people are getting in that year and how down are they. And luckily for me, it was a down year. They weren't taking anybody, so they said, all right, we'll take anybody that's breathing now. And so I got in.
Old crooked arm Dan gets in.
Hang on, Dan. I'm confused. I thought that it was just like, as long as you pass the physical test, like you can be in the. Are they picky about that sort of thing? I don't know how this works.
Oh no, you go to I think it's called MEPS, and I can't remember exactly, but you literally, so you go in with 20, 40 other dudes. Nate, you'll like this part. You get butt naked, strip down butt naked.
I do like to be naked,
especially with 40 other dudes. Nate's excited right now.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter who's there. To be honest, I'll drop trout pretty much anytime anyone asks.
And they do that. I mean, you stop. They check for hemorrhoids, so you all stand in line, you bend over and spread them.
I guess
I remember at 19, what the hell are they doing? But they're checking for hemorrhoids. And they have you do all these exercises where they watch your body, and they're looking for any kind of discrepancy or anything, that old injury or anything like that. And yeah, sure enough, I mean, I passed fine because it's fully healed. And but they're like, hey, straighten your elbows. And I was like, that's as straight as I go. I'm good though. And they're like, no, you got to straighten that. And I said, that's as straight as it goes.
It's the push-up form. So that's what they were upset about, is the push-up form. Like, you couldn't go. They're like, why is this guy being lazy? But you're like, fuck, I can't go any further.
Dude, you know what? It actually, for me, I think it helped very much because I couldn't go. People can lock your arms, and it's a resting position. So you fully extend, and you lock your elbows, and you're resting. I can't lock my fucking elbows. So when I go to the resting position, I'm still exerting myself. So I actually think it helped me.
Yeah.
I was the best push-up guy in the United States Army at the end because I never got tired anymore after I could do rest. But no, so yeah, they check you out pretty thoroughly, and then you go from there to the next stage of it. But no, it's not. You don't just pass the physical. They really, really examine you pretty thoroughly.
That's crazy. So they're telling guys, they're like, sorry, bud, hemorrhoids, you're out. That's fucking insane. I had no idea.
Dude, so my dad was a Marine, and there's a story he always used to tell about that same thing, where they'd line them up in there, and they'd fucking go over there, and they'd drop their trowel, whatever, and they would be checking for the hemorrhoids. And I guess he's standing in line, and this one guy's getting checked out, and one of the guys looks and goes, holy shit. He starts calling guys over. He's like, dude, you guys gotta see this shit. And the guy was like beat red. He's like so fucking pissed, but he's calling all these other guys over to look at this guy's giant hemorrhoids in his ass.
Oh, Lord.
And they're just like clowning him in front of everybody. And so poor guy is just
Jesus, dude.
Well, Dan, and then, after Nate and I sent some letters to the Army about like your exploits in high school and all the shit that you used to get into, they're like, we need this guy on the tank, right? So you got into the tanks, right?
Yeah, it was called a Bradley. Mine was called a linebacker. I got to talk about my tank because I loved it. When you're in tanks or something like that, you have a very serious love affair with your vehicle. I mean, there was a motto where I was in where it was death before dismount. You're not getting off that thing no matter what. I mean, you sleep on it, you eat in it. I was only in for 3 years, but your first 6 months is training. And then for 2.5 years after that, I was on that tank every single day. If you weren't in the field somewhere, which you were in the field a lot, you wake up at 5:30, you go do some PT, and then you're on your tank. And you're practicing with it, you're driving with it. I mean, you shit off of it. You tie a rope to the side. You literally, for when there's simulated minefields, you have a rope to the side, and you prop your feet up, and you hang on, and you shit off the side of the tank. The tank
to check for mines, like to see it.
Well, it's supposed to be that you can't get off the vehicle.
You can't go walk off into the forest and go poop because you might blow up.
Or even if you're like, they do what's called NTC training, where they're a lot of fun. There's simulated wars, for the whole side, and you're stuck in the middle of somewhere, and you're not allowed to leave the tank because you never know when the engagement is going to start. So you just shit off the side of the tank. And I was on a Bradley linebacker. It was, I think, 36 tons, fully loaded, at a 25 millimeter chain gun, and then it had Stinger missiles, which was air defense missiles on the side.
Didn't you break your hip?
I was gonna say
hanging off of a tank.
We can cut this, but you've also been on the outside of the tank, correct?
Yeah. I broke my hip when I got pinched between a tree and so the unique thing about tanks, which is crazy, when you're driving them, you can't see anything, but you don't need to because it's a fucking tank, right? So you just drive. But you start off as a driver, and when you're in the driver's seat, you cannot see almost anything. With the hatch closed and you hunkered down in, it has these where they're called portholes, and it's just a mirror that you look through it, and then it kind of goes up, and you can barely see, but nobody even bothers because this vision is so bad. So the commander stands up in the turret, and you have a voice box thing, that you can talk to the driver, and the commander just says 3/4 speed, right, left, and you just drive. And I remember many times as a driver, you just recline back staring at the ceiling, and you're just giving it gas and turning whichever way he says. You have no idea what's in front of you, but it's a tank, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, especially on the Bradley, the driver sits to the far left, can't see anything even with the hatch open to the right, and I was standing in front of the tank, and this brand new dumbass driver, I was trying to guide him forward, and when you can't see the operator anymore, you're supposed to stop so you don't run him over. Well, he didn't stop, and he pinched me between the tree and it was in Georgia, so they were small trees. They're really tall, but they're skinny, and it dislocated and cracked my backside of my hip. The nuts part is, so once the tree finally got pushed down and I was free, I jumped on the front of the tank, ran up into the turret, jumped in there, and put my helmet on and started yelling at him. And, saying, "You fucking idiot, you almost killed me." And then like 20 seconds later, I was like, "Man, this really hurts." And then about 40 seconds after that, I was on the ground dying.
Let me ask you this question though, Dan, following that. How long did it take you to go to the, go seek medical attention?
Sounds like a loaded question.
I flew out of there. I did get flown out almost immediately, but they x-rayed the wrong fucking side. So they sent me home with ibuprofen.
They were like, "This guy's fine. There's no problems here."
Yeah.
Ibuprofen.
And next day, I was in so much pain that I think I pissed myself. I know I pissed myself because I couldn't get out of bed. And yeah, I think my wife came home and called an ambulance eventually, and then I went in.
So so let me just sidetrack here. So one of our favorite things about Dan, and if you go back and listen to the training day interview, you'll hear some of the exploits, but Dan has a penchant for getting hurt and then essentially just
and then being like,
that.
"It's fine."
Yeah, being like, "It's fine," until I have to go to the emergency room. So today, Brad and I were, Dan's checking with Brad and I via text.
I'm actually on my way to the podcast. Like, I'm driving over here.
Out of the blue, we get this picture that I don't think we could probably put on the socials that just has this like it actually looks like it's got to be a cast, except it's human flesh because it's the wrong color. And the only reason you know it's human flesh is because it has stitches that look like Frankenstein stitches.
Yeah, it's
clearly
legit.
There's a swollen
Showing me
arm.
the picture right now. It looks great.
And it says, "Ripped my damn tendons out last week. Had surgery on Tuesday, but I keep cutting the cast off. I hate casts."
Which we both agreed is the most Lieutenant Dan like story of all time. Like, it's just
you cut your own cast off, Dan?
So most of my childhood, I was in a cast at some point in time for some broken limb. I don't think I've ever gone back to the doctor to get the cast removed. I think and that was my mom, to be honest, to be fair. She was like, "I'm not paying for this shit again." So after it felt good, you just cut that cast off, and you're like, "All right, I'm good to go."
How did you take the cast off?
You cut it. You just saw it.
Hacksaw? Dremel, usually.
Dremel?
No, whatever you have. I mean, they're not thick, man. They're not plaster. You can break them off with your hands if you go at it savage enough. I got some tips. So like, okay, you can't
I got
see,
some
I know this
tips.
is a podcast.
He's holding up his cast.
Just like everybody, the casts to this day are still the most uncomfortable thing in the world. They can't get these things comfortable. So what I do with them, I cut the sons of bitches in half like this every time, right? And then I wrap each half in a sock, and then I put it back on like this, so it's with a sock around it, and then I duct tape it together, and then it's far more comfortable that way.
It's almost like you can't move your arm when it's on there. So I see why you would want to do that.
Hey, this guy, there's a reason his
so
arms
nuts.
don't straighten completely.
And I'll put them back on. I mean, I tape them back on. I'll cut them off and then put them back on. But, you know, it's such a pain in the ass to shower with them and everything else. I just...
How'd you rip your tendons?
That's another whole story. So we bought a hot tub spa, you know, and they wanted $500 to move it from the front to the back. I said, no, I can move this. And so my wife was here yelling at me that you can't move the hot tub. I said, watch me. I couldn't move the hot tub.
They wanted $500.
Oh,
watch me.
Boy. And so you had a hold of it and you were trying to yank and something popped?
So I started to pick it up, and I figured if I can get it on its side, then I could get some rope underneath it and maybe make some kind of contraption to move it over to where I wanted it to go. And when I started picking it up, and I got to that like quarter of it up, or maybe half, and I felt, I've never felt anything like this, and I felt in my elbow a rip. And I went, oh my God. And in an instant, real sharp pain, but then the pain went away. But I knew that's not normal. I don't know what that was. So I should have put it down, but I did okay, I'm halfway. Let me put everything I've got. And then we'll deal with that later. And I put everything I had into it, and then I felt this really big, like, pop. Oh. And I got it up, though, but I got it all the way up. But then I looked at my arm, and the bicep, I shit you not, like the bicep was on the side of my arm.
Oh, no.
And all the shoulder. I broke it at the elbow side. You could break it either end. So it bunched up at the shoulder, and I went, that's not okay. And then about 5 seconds after that, you know, the pain kicks in. You're like, well, that hurts real bad, and this is not good. And then my arm didn't work. So I knew like I had some serious shit going on.
Now, Dan, the question that our listeners really want to know is that your jerking arm?
Yeah, it's my right arm.
Oh my God, that's unfortunate.
That's strange for a while.
I mean, for more than the jerking arm, the wiping your ass.
Oh no,
that's
terrible.
the worst.
If you use the arm used to wipe your ass, it's a whole learning method. And I couldn't talk my wife into do it. Like, hon, the doctor's note says you got to take care of me, and she's like, I'm not. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, wife with the other hand is like a stranger's wife in your ass. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah,
It's so complicated.
and you smell for about 2-3 weeks while you're learning.
Not only am I paying the $500 to move the spa now, still, I have to pay $1,200 for the surgery.
And you're like, in a week when I heal up, I'm going to go ahead and move that thing again on my own.
I can't, but I still can't move my arm. So even though it's all attached now, it should be better than ever, I think, because they drilled that shit back in there.
You're like the bionic man.
It's definitely going to come out better than ever. I think you'll be able to move multiple spas by the time this is all said and done. That's the best story I've ever heard.
I love how he slow rolls it like it's not like it's not going to be much of a story.
I know.
This is
Like,
the most.
They wanted $500 to do it, so I figured, fuck it, I'm going to go into the whole $2,500, and then still have to pay the $500.
It is kind of comical because the doctor was like, people normally tear this. You normally tear it at the shoulder side, which I'd imagine is even worse. I tore it at the elbow side. But most people tear it when they go to catch something. And it's a, instinct, and you go to catch something too heavy and it rips it right out. And so I told the doctor, he's like, so you just lifted until it tore? Yeah. And he said, well, usually you feel something. I felt it. And he goes, well, why didn't you stop? And I said, well, I wanted to get it off.
I was halfway there. I'm not trying to pay $500, Doc.
He said, well, I don't normally get people that tear their own bicep off. I said, yeah.
All right.
All right, Lieutenant Dan, we have you here to talk about Saving Private Ryan, and I think the first thing.
Hang on, Brad. I want to hear more stories about Dan hurting himself. This is my favorite fucking thing that has ever happened. He's got a billion stories. I know.
You've got to go back to. We have.
I know.
I know.
And
go
we
back
can,
to the training day.
Actually, what we need to do is we'll take a little BVK trip. But yeah, so Saving Private Ryan. The thing I want to hit you up is that we were talking a little bit earlier about the idea of like going into a situation like Omaha Beach, and it's like, how does your training prepare you in a sense that like you might be doing some shit that could really end badly? What do you think it is about the training in the military that prepares you for those types of moments?
I think it's the culture that the military sets for the people that come into it. And the culture very much is mission over person. And it is that you are here for, it's a lot of pride. It's a lot of tradition that they bring in, which is very important for all that. Mm-hmm. And it is very much that, hey, you are here for a purpose. And you might not even know what that purpose is. That was, D-Day was Operation Overlord, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The vast majority of those soldiers that died that day didn't even know what they were doing. They just knew that this was something their country needed them to do to end a war for some tyrants, and this was a small piece of the puzzle. They didn't even know what the hell the game plan was. They just knew that this was their orders and that this was their mission. And so I think a lot of it is, some people say it's brainwashing, and I don't think it's that at all. It's just a cultural idea that, hey, you have to understand that you are... How do I explain it? In today's culture, it's very important that everybody is somebody important, right? Everybody's the primary character, right, in their own story, right? And the military is very different. The military is, hey, I hate to say it, but you're not the primary character. You're a tiny cog in a big machine, and you need to do your piece, or that whole machine starts to break down. And if you don't do your piece, then the next piece breaks next to you, and the next piece breaks next to you. This isn't something new for the military. I mean, this goes back to the Roman times where they had shield walls. If the person next to you didn't hold his ground, then the shield started to break, or the wall started to break, and your life was in danger. And the military, I think, understands that more than just about anybody else. I gravitated from there to law enforcement because it's kind of similar along that way. But it is very much you are here to make sure that everybody else is protected as much as possible, and you're doing a mission that even if you don't understand what it is, you have faith that it's going to be used for the right cause. I mean, World War II is an iconic example of it was a right cause. We didn't know maybe what the end game was for everything, but we knew we were going there to do something good.
We knew we were on the right side.
I think it's interesting because I don't think Saving Private Ryan ever really hits that hard that it's like, hey, we're doing this for America. Like, this is the right like we're trying to stomp down fascism. Like, I don't think you ever really get that vibe. Like, that's why I'm always questioning, is it more like a loyalty to the men that you're around, that you've trained with, and it's like, we are here to protect each other because we've created this bond? Or is it like, I'm an American and I'm supporting America and I'm doing like my part? Like, I think Saving Private Ryan doesn't really kind of choose the right direction there. I think they kind of more seem like it's like Band of Brothers type thing, which I know is kind of an offshoot of Saving Private Ryan a little bit later, but I don't know. Like,
do the Band of Brothers thing approach where it is you're here for your brothers and sisters even if you don't understand what it is. But I do think they touch on it in a couple subtle ways. There's one part where they're walking through, I think it's soon before the medic dies, and that terrible scene you were talking about, Scott. That is a terrible scene to watch. Mm-hmm. But they're walking through kind of the plains, and they're all grumbling and complaining, and they ask the captain, Tom Hanks, what would you do if you were talking to the generals right now? And remember what he said? He's like, I'd tell them they're doing a great job, like sarcastically. But his point was that was a great moment of leadership. He shut them all down. Yeah. He didn't against them or for them. But what he was saying is basically what I'm saying. We're here to do a mission. It doesn't matter what we know or don't know. And it's really subtle in the movie, I thought. But when I watched it again, I've watched it several times. Then I think I kind of interpret what the director was trying to do there. He was trying to show that, hey, no, they understand that they're here for a very important purpose. And even though they're grumbling, because there's 19, 20-year-old soldiers and they're all going to grumble, they know. And their leader definitely knows. And even Tom Hanks, the captain, he's got no clue what the grand scheme is, but he knows he's a very important piece in this big machine that has to finish this. So, no, there wasn't a whole lot of, hoorah America in the movie, I don't think. And I don't know that when I was in, there wasn't a whole lot of that until you get to some of the more traditional, like the balls and that kind of thing. But it is more for, you're there for your track, you're there for the individuals that you're spending every day for 12 hours a day crammed in a tiny machine with. But also there is the very thorough and full knowledge of this is why we're here. We know why we're here. And it is such a strong culture that if people come into that group with not that mind, it's almost unspoken, and if people come into that group with not that mantra in mind, then they're kind of chased out. That's not what somebody in the military wants. And at any given time that you could be deployed, and you don't want to be stuck next to somebody that has doubts of why they're there when you do get deployed.
Right.
And that's why drafts, too, I think are dangerous. I mean, we saw that in Vietnam era. I'm not saying draftees weren't that many times. Most of them were. But sometimes if you're forced into it, as a draft as opposed to a volunteer service, you're going to get some people that are not of that culture or mindset, and that is going to damage it.
Well, and I think the exposure we have now to the realities of war, I think, is a little bit different. Whether we've seen it like video, I mean, obviously, Vietnam War was the first to really kind of have some televised, like they were talking about the risks, and like it was more like it was less glorified for sure. And then nowadays, I mean, when we see like things that have gone on in Afghanistan and Iraq, and it's like there's visuals of it, and it's like a little bit more in your face. It definitely makes it easier for folks to question of like, what the fuck are we doing here? Because our last few wars have all been kind of like a little bit, what did we really accomplish? Like World War II, it was very much like we knew what we were doing.
Well, we were attacked by the Japanese first.
I mean, we were involved in the war prior to that,
right?
Not officially, but I mean,
but that was a good motivation, is we were actually attacked. Yeah. So they're like, okay, well, we've been poked by, they poked the bear, we're going to go fight. And then obviously the German part, like that was something that I think you learn in Band of Brothers was they didn't really know about the concentration camps. They knew about the persecution, but they didn't know the level, like how bad it was until they really got in. So there wasn't really that motivation going on, but they definitely knew that there was some bad shit going on.
One of the camps that the United States secured immediately after they saw what was going on in the camp, they immediately started shooting all the officials that were like in charge of that camp, just started lining them up and blasting them. It was like they just were like, what the fuck was going on here? Kind of crazy.
So
first 20 minutes of the movie, Brad, you would know this for sure, and you're going to have more details on it than I will too, actually, probably, I'm sure. But as bloody and bad as that was, which many of the beaches were terrible, I think there was 3 of the 6 that were real bad. They were planning another operation to invade Japan, and they were expecting casualties to be 10 times higher than what was on those beaches. So when they, you always hear a lot of people that when we dropped the A-bombs, little boy and big boy, how bad it was, and it was terrible. We were looking at casualty rates that would have just made D-Day look like child's play almost. And they were anticipating it. They knew that we were going to have massive casualty waves. But anytime you take a beachhead, which is usually a job of Marines, and this one they use the Army on Overlord, which that's because the Army is the biggest, but anytime you're invading a beachhead is the scariest operation for any military personnel. They know it's going to be massive casualties.
Yeah. I mean, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, I mean, all those, it was crazy what was going on there compared to what even, I'm not saying it makes Omaha Beach or Utah Beach look bad. I mean, like child's play, but I mean, what happened in the Pacific campaign was just brutal wild fighting, like just craziness. Guys, any other questions for Dan here?
So I think I'm struggling here a little bit to put into words what because I don't know if it's not an entirely controversial take, because I'm not quite sure how to make it, but I sometimes think we sort of like oversimplify or fetishize the role of soldiers in society, sort of as like it's a litmus test for how. So like you're talking about, Dan, right? Like maybe everybody by the time they're in the system has would report that they're there sort of to protect their country, to protect the ideals of the country. But I mean, as we see in the movie, and I think to some extent as you've reported in conversations, there's a lot of variation in what people's motivations are for being in the military, for their attitudes, their sort of level of inherent valor. I mean, there are people that are truly both duty oriented and principle driven, and would do it for free, right? I mean, really think like, this is my sense. I have a sense of duty here. I need to volunteer and be in. I think that it's so important to protect. And then I think there's people that go in for reasons that are entirely about, at least initially, because it's a reasonable, stable living relative to where they were, because they have a sense that it has, long-term potential for a career or for setting themselves up in those ways because they didn't have any other good options.
A lot of people go in for like the college thing and stuff like that.
And I guess my point isn't to be critical at all of the soldiers, of the enlisted, of people that participate in the military. That those are, from my perspective, those are all great reasons. And if for whatever reason they get into the system and they become they are trained, or they come around on the idea of duty, that there's nothing wrong with that, and maybe nothing wrong if they don't. I guess my point is just, I sometimes feel like we have this narrative that like we have to have this like over the top respect as though everybody is this hero. And I think for me, I think it oversimplifies. It feels like you're not allowed to have a conversation about the reality of war, or of being in the military as being both, some, I guess I'm not quite sure how to say it. I think sometimes it's forced upon us a bit.
So I think I hear what you're saying. And I think what you're saying has some merit to it, especially back in the days of Saving Private Ryan. So there used to be what was called a tech position, and then every other position. So it used to be like a tech sergeant or just a sergeant. So a tech sergeant was a support or liaison staff. So I can't remember the numbers now, but I think it takes 2 to 4 soldiers to support 1 combat soldier. Okay. So now in the Marines is a little bit different. Every Marine is a rifleman. So every single Marine is trained for combat, and the Marines pride themselves on pretty much only taking in the people that we were talking about before, that if you want to be a Marine, you're going in because for the most part, you're probably wanting to fight. But in the Army, that's a huge operation. A big chunk of the Army, people go into it never expecting to see combat of any type, which is totally fine and honorable. They're going in to serve their country, but they might be going into a specialized field for, mechanics or healthcare, or they have everything. They have law
engineering facilities,
think of. Now, where I was in, and you will find. And these are just, in every field, you can categorize or somewhat generalize the people that are going to go into that field. If you go into academics, there's probably going to be, most people like to read that are academics. Doesn't mean every single one of them likes to, but the vast majority probably like to read. You know what I mean? If you go into the military, probably the very vast majority are very supportive and patriotic towards their country. If you go into combat arms, so I wanted specifically to be in combat arms. That's where I wanted to go, some type of combat arms. And that is going to attract, I think, a very specific person. You know what I mean? But yes, I hear what you're saying very much. And they used to categorize that off. So it used to be, if you were in combat arms, you were a normal rank. And if you were in support staff, you were a tech rank. So it would be tech specialist or tech sergeant. And that was telling. And the reason they went away from that is because it created, subgroups or gangs where if you were a tech position, you were looked down upon almost by the other military personnel. Because if you were in the infantry and getting ready to get deployed at any moment, and this guy was never going to leave, Fort Bliss, Texas, then, there was a difference there. So they've done away with that, which I think is probably good because everybody in the military deserves our respect, in my opinion. But the military is a massive machine, massive. I think when I was in, it was 230,000 just in the Army alone. I don't know how big every branch is now at this point, but and I am speaking for generalizations, but generally, especially in those positions, that is the people that are going to gravitate towards that job field. You guys knew me, Nate, very well growing up, and you've said it before, and I think the whole time you knew me, you knew I would probably go into the service because I exemplified those traits that I'm talking about for a lot of military. And the majority of the people in with me were similar to where I was, very patriotic, very supportive of the military and the country and that type of thing. Not to say all of them. I remember when I was in boot camp, there was a guy, very smart, very good dude, just graduated college, and he signed up for 4 years because they said he had $140,000 in student loans, and they said, hey, we'll pay off every penny of that if you give us 4 years. So he went, okay, I'm in. He didn't have any love for the military. I don't remember what his job was. He wasn't doing combat arms, but we were in boot camp together. But he was going in to pay off student loans. Great guy. Loved the dude. Another guy that was in combat arms that I was with a long time, and he did become, like minds. If you're outnumbered, you kind of adapt to those around you. Most people are chameleons. But he had gone in because when he was a juvenile, he was 17, committed a bunch of crimes, was turning 18. The judge said, go to the military, you're going to jail. He went, I'll go to the military. Then we became good friends. He was a great guy, and I think it turned his life around. But he didn't join because, that's what he wanted to do. He joined because he had to go there or go to jail. So it is definitely a mixing pot. We had one guy, I remember, great dude that was from Africa. I felt like he could barely speak English, but that was how he was getting his citizenship. He had joined because if he went through, he can get his citizenship. So there was and actually, what's funny is probably the most patriotic guy in there. He loved America.
And I think, I guess some of the movie, it's not like you see in the movie that like everybody, every soldier is just, exactly that sort of like, I'll do this no matter what for my country because I believe in these principles. Like there's a lot of variation in the movie, and maybe underneath they're all sort of have that attitude, but like some guys are just genuinely scared and sort of doubt their position there at times, and genuinely like I just think like there's a lot of complexity maybe that the movie brings out that sometimes I think you're not allowed when you're a non-military person to like observe or sort of comment on, right? And it sort of, to me, creates kind of oddly, I think it dehumanizes in a sense like what the experience is, because you're either sort of like have this incredibly deep deference or you're sort of somebody that's just a naysayer, right? And at times I think like there's more complexity to it, and a movie like Saving Private Ryan gives you some of that complexity. So it's not that any of them, I think, I'm not being critical at all, just sort of commenting on the like way that society is sort of set up to think about what service is, and maybe it's necessarily simplified, or maybe there's an underlying core truth to it that like what you're saying that pervades, and then there's sort of complexity on top of that. But
crazy for me to think about from World War II is the idea of there were interned Japanese Americans who signed up to fight for the United States. It's like your whole family's been put in basically prison camps, and you're now going to say, actually, I'm going to go fight for this country that has now imprisoned me. And that was kind of like their way to say, fuck you, kind of like not fuck you to the United States, but just like, hey, I'm worthy of this country. And like, they almost felt like they had to earn their right, which, I mean, it's kind of terrible to think about now, but the fact that there was plenty of Japanese Americans who signed up to fight, and they weren't getting sent to the Pacific to fight, but they went and fought bravely in Europe and in Africa, and it was just kind of wild.
Yeah, that is nuts. Saving Private Ryan too, jumping back to it, but that is totally nuts, actually, Brad. The fact that we did that, and that so many of those Japanese Americans still stayed patriotic to the country too, is even insane to me.
Yeah.
Going to Saving Private Ryan, I think an example of kind of what you're talking about, Nate, is when they basically, against his will, pull in the scholar.
Yeah, Upham, the translator.
Yeah, and I remember watching it with my mom once or twice, and I remember watching it with my wife. I don't know if she's seen the whole thing. I don't know if my wife ever has seen a whole movie. She can't want to sit through the whole thing. But, or my daughter. I watched it with my daughter, made her sit through the whole thing. But at the end, when that terrible scene when his buddy's getting stabbed and he can't do anything about it.
Right.
And, most people are like, what a coward, what a piece of shit. I don't feel that way at all. He didn't want to be in combat arms. He knew that this is something that he couldn't do. And they basically dragged him in against his will. And when he got there, it wasn't that he didn't love this guy on the ground. That was not in him to do what was being asked for him in that moment. And I think it kind of goes what you're saying, like, not everybody in there is doing the exact same job. It doesn't mean they don't deserve our respect for going in. I don't think that's what you're saying at all. But it is a job filled with very many different professions. And I'll also say it is weird that when you're in, nobody's sitting there going, "We love America." It just doesn't happen at all. I think the reason why, in my mind, is it's almost like, for the most part, once you get there, it's like, all right, we can move past that. Everybody hears, we all agree on that part. Let's just move to the next thing that we're going to complain about, because it is a very common mantra, especially in the combat arm. I mean, who else is going to do that? You know, you might have your psychopaths every now and then are doing it for whatever reason, but for the most part, most people that go into that profession are doing it for a very specific reason.
Well, I think it's easy to distinguish the psychopaths from like the regular people. Like, I know my great uncle, World War II vet in Pacific, and he was a machine gunner, and he probably killed a lot of Japanese, but he didn't come home and be like, "Oh yeah, I killed it." Like he was never, it was not anything he ever talked about. It was like somebody finally kind of got out a little bit of the details from him, but he wasn't ever going to be the type that's like out there trying to brag or like was happy with what he had to do. I mean, I think he just realized that this is what I had to do. This is what my job was. And we don't need to talk about it. And I'm not going to by any means ever brag about it. Like, "Oh, I killed so many." Like that's a psychopath. And there might be a few of those in the military, but typically if somebody does see that heavy combat like that, they're going to be not running home to go tell everybody about it. They're just like, "That's some shit I went through."
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any Lieutenant Dan commentary?
Dan, anything else you'd like to add from Saving Private Ryan? I mean, anything that stands out to you or?
No, I disagree with Nate on if you took the first 20 minutes out, I still think that's an excellent movie. I thought the first 20 minutes were very, very good, but I thought that entire movie did a really good job of trying to capture what it achieved in capturing. Like, I think it very much tried to show that these people are here for each other, that they actually care, that this is a terrible situation, that there's no wins sometimes, and how they sacrificed. I mean, they said it multiple times. We're going to sacrifice 15 people to save one guy. But really, why were they doing that? Because it was the right thing to do. Because somebody's mom had lost 4 other sons. And, I mean, I am very proud of the military. I think that I'm very proud of where we are with the military, and I still think we do that. I still think that when the chips fall, the military is going to do what's the right thing for the most part, you know. And we're going to have stories and things where people. It's a huge operation. It's probably 500,000 troops total when you consider all the branches. But for the most part, it's full of just very honorable and good people. And I only did 3 years. That was how long I signed up for. But it was something I was very proud to do, and I'm very proud of all the people that are in there now. So for Memorial Day, thank you everybody that's done the ultimate sacrifice for us, and it's a small piece we could do every year to recognize all those one day a year. But yeah, no, that's all I got. Unless anybody has any questions for me.
All right.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you
man.
so much.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. We love you.
Thanks, guys.
I can't tolerate nuance. Welcome to Opinionated Movie Reviews.
I like that. I like that name. That's a good name.
That sounds like someone who boofs. We're a bunch of assholes.
I know that you can't poop above your ass.
You don't? Have you ever tried?
Yeah.
We like to talk about movies.
It's because I enjoy hanging out with my friends, not because I want to watch the movie.
Find weekly episodes on Spotify and opinionatedpodcast.com.
For all of you listening with your 5-year-olds, I'm so sorry.
I'm not.
This episode of BVK is brought to you by FUBAR Liquor, from the makers of FUBAR, the silliest nutritional bar in the world. Do you find yourself trapped in a world of questionable choices? Does your boss make decisions that make you question your sanity? Well, we've got the solution for you. Introducing FUBAR, your ultimate remedy for surviving those unbearable shitty decisions. All right, squad, I've got a plan. Let's storm that enemy machine gun nest by running directly at it. FUBAR! When you're caught in Saving Private Ryan level of madness, reach for FUBAR, your liquid salvation. With its unique blend of courage and craziness, FUBAR will help you face the impossible and embrace the absurd. Folks, we will be replacing all the computers with typewriters. It's a real energy cost and time saver.
FUBAR!
FUBAR is crafted with top secret ingredients that turn terrible decisions into legendary stories. With each sip, you'll find the courage to say, challenge accepted, and tackle those absurd tasks head on. Johnson, I want all our employees to take the safety and compliance seminars twice a month from now on. No problem, boss. FUBAR, anyone?
Hey, another round of FUBAR for me.
FUBAR! So the next time your boss or military higher-ups take you on a roller coaster of questionable choices, remember, grab a bottle of FUBAR and turn those what the fuck moments into what a wild ride memories. FUBAR, because even terrible decisions deserve an epic toast.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snack Body Bag.
Oh boy, we could have gone 1,000 ways.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot. Yeah.
Or do you stab him with the dagger?
That was exactly where I went with it, but I couldn't figure out how to say it right. That's good.
All right, so it is Shag Snack Body Bag time, and we are going to talk about what we've shagged from this horrifically violent but also pretty poignant movie. Zach, what are you shagging here, man?
I'm going to say it because you called on me first, and I'm sure that it's going to get talked about, and we've already talked about it kind of ad nauseum, but I'm going to go with the first 20 minutes of this movie, the D-Day, or the Omaha Beach, right? The Omaha Beach scene is sort of, I've seen this movie a couple times, and it's the scene that every time that I'm thinking about when I think of this movie. It's iconic, it's brutal, it's really cool, and well shot, and I dig it.
I'm gonna pretty much piggyback on you, because my shag is the crazy camera and editing techniques, and it's mainly in that first scene. There's so many things that happen in that first scene. The camera going in and out of the water, and this is, I would say, the ultimate theater movie.
Yeah.
In fact, there was actually notes as they send out the movie to theaters. They said, turn the volume up a couple notches,
Right.
But turn it up a little bit when you're playing this movie, because obviously the sound editing and stuff, but as the camera goes down, the water, it gets quiet, and then you pop back up and you're just hearing explosions and gunfire, and then it goes back down in the water. It kind of calms down. And like some of those big mortar explosions, when things kind of go quiet, you get the ringing in your ears sound, and then it's like kind of everything slows down. Like just so many little things that were really interesting.
Yeah, because they won the Oscar for sound mixing, right? And was cinematography and sound mixing, and then director. They won those three, but then they did not win the Best Picture, and this was the year Shakespeare in Love.
Oh God!
And maybe the worst thing about this movie, the most depressing thing, is that it was because Harvey Weinstein basically campaigned his ass off to make Shakespeare in Love the Best Picture.
Gosh. It's so insane.
How many people have watched Shakespeare in Love in the last 20 years?
I've never watched it.
It's not bad.
I knew you'd like it.
Hopefully Harvey's.
I don't love it at all. I've watched it one time.
Yeah, but I am glad, because talking about what you're shagging from this is that at least the cinematography and the sound mixing won where it absolutely should have. So
well, and it's a transition. It's the last film edited on a non-digital editing system, so it was actually old school cut together with the actual film being cut. So that's pretty awesome. And then the shot through the scope. I don't know when Barry Pepper, when Jackson shoots him through the sniper scope, like they actually had like a little thing, mechanism that as soon as the glass would break, they pressed a button to make the glass break, and then there was like a little thing that launched onto his eye and stuck on his eye, so that it looks like he's got a bullet through his eye. So that's practical effects and stuff that they were using. It wasn't CGI. There was some CGI, but a lot of practical effects used. So
just real quick, talking about Barry Pepper, this isn't really a Shag Snag or Body Bag or anything, but I noticed this, and I don't know why I noticed it. So he's a lefty, right? When he's doing all his shooting, and I don't know, I'd never noticed that before, and I was like, oh crap, he's left-handed shooter. But then when they're walking, he's holding his gun right-handed. And it just, for some reason, I was like, that doesn't make sense.
I wonder if that was like just it looked better or
Yeah, and but why it stuck out to me this time of all the times I've seen it, I was there walking. I was like, if you're a left-handed shot, which he is in the whole movie, he wouldn't be walking with right-handed.
No,
because they're gonna be running into battle at any time. So it was like really strange to me why they did that.
I don't know. Barry Pepper, Canadian, and before he got as he got hired for this movie, was rooming with our boy Ryan Reynolds.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zach's favorite actor.
When he was banging Alanis.
Maybe they were doing three-ways on
Barry
it.
Pepper was banging Alanis too.
Ryan Reynolds was.
And Barry
Maybe
Pepper.
They both were.
I'd like to think so.
I cannot confirm or deny that. Nate, what are you shagging, bud?
So I mean, if I could, I would just shag and snag, all kind of in one big motion, the opening sequence. But since you guys, I'll try to be original. I'm going to shag the ensemble cast. Mm-hmm. So for me, if I'm going to make the case that this movie, and I've already sort of shit on this case, but if I'm going to make the case that beyond the first 20 or 30 minutes, this movie would be sort of like iconic, it's because the cast overall is so good. I mean, and this is early. This is for a lot of these actors. It's really early in their careers, and so you get this like crazy good cast when you shouldn't, right? Because they just haven't quite hit yet. I mean, you have some big ones, but I mean, like there's probably a dozen actors that are in their own right, like will become potential headliners or like key supporting actors that are just kind of like role players in the movie. So I think to me that's the sort of unsung hero of the movie is the ensemble.
I was gonna say I had not even remembered that Bryan Cranston was like the guy that gets like the little notice that
hair.
I was like, oh shit, that's Bryan Cranston.
Yep.
Like I didn't remember until this rewatch that I was
or Nathan Fillion is the first Private Ryan they find that it was the wrong guy.
Right.
Oh, from Remember the Titans. No. That's the deaf guy. That's the guy who's got the.
Nathan Fillion. He was in Serenity and if you guys like science fiction or whatever. Firefly. No, nobody.
Are you saying words that it means something?
Nathan Fillion. Anyway, I couldn't. I didn't realize that was him.
Nathan Fillion, our boy.
You would know him if you saw him.
I do know exactly. What you're talking
No,
about.
but
Fillion.
I remember the first Brian Ryan, the one who's
Wasn't he in Felicity?
maybe they got it wrong, and my brothers are
still in grade school.
He's in Felicity, isn't he?
He might have been. He had a couple TV shows. Doesn't fucking matter. Anyway,
he's gonna be on the pod next week.
Serenity, bro.
But
Scotch, what are you shagging?
Well, just real quick on that. What was really cool was Steven Spielberg was trying to get a relative unknown in that role of Ryan, and so when he actually had Matt Damon signed up, Good Will Hunting hadn't come out yet, and he'd done some other smaller movies, but he wasn't really that
he was still
known.
just the asshole from School Ties.
And then so while they were making the movie, then it kind of blew up, and then it's like, oh shit, well people know who he is now, and
damn it,
yeah, I know, but. So yeah, I was pretty much going to shag the same thing. So I'll shag something different, which is the fact that all those actors, they put them through a week boot camp, which taught them, they slept 3 hours a night, fucking cold, wet, fucking to get them used to this whole thing, and a bunch of them wanted to quit. And Tom Hanks is like, no, you guys are gonna regret it for the rest of your life if you do. And so they really respected him as a person. And he basically talked him into staying. But the best part is, the thing I'm shagging is the fact that they didn't have Matt Damon do the boot camp because he wanted everybody to hate him for not having to go through the boot camp.
Yeah,
oh, really?
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good call.
By the way, Nathan Fillion is not in Felicity, but I have made that mistake because he's in Waitress. With
Carrie Russell.
With Carrie Russell, and so I was like transposing. My bad.
Okay.
Got it.
All right, snags.
I'm gonna snag. I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Nate's, and I'm gonna snag Adam Goldberg. Dude, I fucking love him in almost everything that I see him in, including Friends, including Dazed and Confused, all the way to Saving Private Ryan. He's so good.
He's been in a lot of stuff, yeah.
He's so good, and he's like kind of nonchalantly good to me, and I really like his cadence and the way that he speaks. It seems very realistic to me, even though if somebody really talked like that, I feel like it would be like just ridiculous. But the way that he just kind of speaks is crazy to me. And I feel like he's a great dramatic actor, and I fucking love him in this. I love him in Dazed and Confused, and we've talked about that. But yeah, I like him a lot.
I think I saw that they said he when they did the stabbing scene, that there was a lot more like the one take he wasn't like quiet. He was just like, I don't want to die, like screaming and stuff.
Yeah.
But instead they went with the more like kind of like reserved one where he just kind of
No, wait a minute, wait.
Yeah,
It's
brutal.
So fucking
that is a wild scene for sure. Snagging Scotch.
I'm gonna snag Modesto's own Harv Presnell, who is the general who sent them on this mission. And Harv Presnell, he was also in Fargo as the dad.
This is a Modesto guy?
He's from Modesto.
Did not
Harv
know
Presnell.
that.
He's in a Paint Your Wagon is a classic musical movie that he was in. And so, yeah, and I just, whenever he's, he just kind of has this amazing presence, and I just love the fact that he's a Modesto boy.
Do you know what high school he went to?
I don't. So
that's always important.
I don't do
Mo
research.
High. He's old as fuck. He went to
Probably
Mo
not.
High.
I think he just got his GED. I don't think he.
Who knows?
That's not a thing.
The School of Hard Knocks on McHenry Avenue. Nate, what are you snagging?
Not to be super boring here, but I'm gonna snag Tom Hanks. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this isn't nearly his best role, and I don't know that even this role is particularly a great fit for him. But he's gold. I mean, he effectively does no wrong. He's great in this, and I think the fact that I think that this role is not exactly the right role for him still just shows that he's got all the powers. Wow, he's great.
Well, the thing is, sometimes you see these gung ho macho leaders or whatever, and it's like, what I love about it is he's real. He's a school teacher, and he got called back into duty. He's doing his thing, and he shows you that vulnerability. He does his job, but he's not this
He's not like a bad.
He has
motherfucker.
flaws,
Yeah,
and it's fucking cool. And Tom Hanks is perfect for that.
Perfect.
Yeah, all his little conversations. I mean, we was talking about he knows he's been responsible for the deaths of men,
Right.
and then just trying to reduce that. That's like his goal. He's like, I just want to not kill my men. That's
right.
Basically my whole goal here. There's a great story though that Tom Hanks, as they were kind of wrapping up the shoot, they were doing the church scene was one of the last scenes they filmed, and so they had a lunch break and they went behind the church. He took all the guys behind the church and he said he had a bottle of Jack Daniels. He poured them all a shot and he's like, "Hey, I've been to the editing room and I've seen what Steven has cut so far, and I've got good news and bad news." And they're like, "What's up?" And he says, "Good news is we're making a pretty incredible film. And if the movie turns out like I think it's going to turn out, we're all going to be part of film history." He's like, "This is a movie that will live on long after we're all gone. Generations will watch this movie after you've all passed. That's the good news. The bad news is that it's all downhill from here." And I was like, that's pretty epic. That's pretty awesome. But I like the idea of Tom Hanks with the bottle of Jack behind the church as they're filming. It seems like again, we always talk about Tom Hanks as kind of being like the dad of America, and he kind of is. He just seems like it would be terrible if you found out that he did some really fucked up, terrible things.
Well, if he's the dad of America, have you seen his actual kid, this Chet Hanks character?
Oh, dude, he's in Shameless, and I'm watching it right now.
No.
That's the other one.
That's the other one. That's great.
No, Chet Hanks is in Shameless.
Oh, wait, yeah. No. The other one's his brother, isn't it? Isn't the other one? There's another one that's actor.
Both his
sons.
He's got two sons. Colin is the one that's great. Chet is the one that's covered in tattoos.
Yeah, he's not great.
And he's he's not great.
He raps. He was doing Jamaican rapping for a while.
He's not great.
He's like Bumba. Hey,
he's not great. He's not terrible, but he's kind of a little bit of a one-trick pony, and it's not that good a trick.
He was the rebel. He's the rebel kid. I'm sure he'll end up being
Shameless?
a decent person. Maybe. Who knows?
I didn't know he was an actor. That's
All right.
amazing.
I'm going to snag war movies as anti-war movies. And I think a lot of war movies, especially created today, are definitely anti-war movies at their core. Mm-hmm. This one, it kind of flirts on both ends. It kind of flirts on the patriotic side. It also kind of, obviously the horrors of war that it shows, are very much anti-war. there's a scene at the beginning of the movie when they finally take over the beach, and Tom Hanks is sitting there, and he sees those two soldiers stand up and they're surrendering, and then the Americans shoot them.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, look, I washed for supper."
And he's like disappointed. He gives like this look like, fuck.
He does, and actually, when you translate what those guys said, they were speaking Czech. They were Czech troops that had been basically forced to join the military by the Germans after the Germans took over Czechoslovakia. And so it's like, it's just a little hidden thing that you don't realize that that's essentially a war crime. They're not killing Germans. They're killing guys that probably weren't actually actively fighting. They were probably doing like digging toilets and stuff like that for the German army. And again, just little things like that. That's obviously like just a war crime. I mean, that's just absolutely horrific in your face. And again, the German troop, who they call Steamboat Willie, when they capture him after fighting, taking over the machine gun, it's like that whole situation. It's like, do we let him go? Do we kill him? Like it brings up all of those tough questions that people go through. And again, just imagining yourself in those situations, like what would you do? And
those guys on the beach, though, they're like, these guys just like, they don't know. And they're like, these people just killed fucking a million of us right behind us. You know what I mean? All my friends.
Yeah. And the adrenaline, the anger and stuff. It's like, that's why, I mean, Tom Hanks doesn't run over there and arrest him or anything. He's not like, I'm charging you with war crimes. He's just like, fuck, man, this sucks.
That would have changed the movie.
He was just like, it turns into a war drama, like a lawyer, a war courtroom drama.
Yeah, he's just like,
I'm testifying against you too. Yeah, different movie for sure. All right, body bags. I'm going to start this one because it might be a longer conversation. I just mentioned him. The character they refer to as Steamboat Willie, Betty Gable, nice gams, that whole guy.
Mm-hmm.
I really, and this hit me the first time I watched the movie, and it still continues to bother me this day. And maybe you guys have perspectives that change that. Upham shooting that guy at the end was always my least favorite thing. Well, besides the whole like cemetery thing, it's my second least favorite thing in this movie. Because I wanted him to just kind of have to like deal with the fact that he let that dude get stabbed. He needs to just kind of be like, it almost felt like it was a redemption that was unnecessary.
Right.
Like, I think it's more powerful if he just is like, I'm the guy that was in the war and I just had to deal with like being a kind of a.
So you didn't like the fact that it kind of vindicated it, kind of
redemption arc.
Yeah.
He's like, I can kill too. It's like, I mean, it was like, what was the point? And now you could look at it maybe from the perspective it's like him just kind of hardening and it's like losing his humanity. But it seemed weird. Like, why? He's like, Upham, and like, he just shoots that guy and then he like lets them all run off. He's like, all right, get out of here.
Right.
It was just, I didn't get the point.
So can I jump on this? Because I think my body bag is a broader version of this, which is I don't like Spielberg's, and this is maybe what I mean by camp. Maybe that's not really what I mean. His inability to allow certain discomforts to just stand.
Right.
Like, they're with everything from like the plot resolutions of certain things to the music that he chooses to use to the kind of like narratives that wrap things up and bookend, like the cemetery. Like, it's not that he doesn't, I mean, obviously he's comfortable with portraying heavy content in heavy ways, but he's not super, it's a weird take for me because I love a happy ending.
Don't we all?
But there's a but I mean, I think, dude, there's plenty of people who don't like happy. You don't like happy endings, Zach.
War of the Worlds. Hey, Spielberg did War of the Worlds, and like the brother, like spoiler, but the brother like dies. But then it's like at the end, actually he didn't die. He's there.
Right.
And it's like, and it seemed unnecessary. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, I think yours is like a really nice micro example of this like broader trend, which is it's not that he doesn't in every case, like he doesn't resolve everything in every movie. But I think this is what I mean about like movies that are supposed to be a little bit lighter and more fun, that don't have the complexity of it. I'm more comfortable with his style in terms of like the way that he resolves things. And in a movie like Private Ryan, it kind of neuters some of the seriousness of it to me by, just insisting that there's these points of redemption, there's these points of kind of heroicism that I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like. I don't like. That's what I don't like about serious Spielberg. I think, and so it's not an overall criticism of him. It's just he doesn't quite take it home in certain places where I want him to.
Zach, body bag.
I talked about it earlier, and I will double down. I shagged the opening scene, but I just don't like that weird slow-mo that they do. Mm-hmm. Like, there's lots of things to body bag from this movie, in my opinion, and lots of, like, fluff. I think my other body bag would probably be, like, this movie could be 2 hours, but there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of, like, long, like, shots of the mom kind of, like, washing the dishes, waiting for the car to come up the driveway, which I get what they're trying to do, but I feel like there's a lot of fluff, but I just don't like watching it now. I think in the theater at the time when I watched that opening scene, it never like occurred to me. And Gladiator did the same thing with that weird slow-mo. And I think maybe it was just like sort of a product of what they were doing during that time in film. But I don't like it. It dates it, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit.
One thing that's always bothered me about this is, and I remember watching it when I first saw it, was, so this is based on a true story, kind of. So there was,
there's some truth. Yeah,
there's some truth to it. The Nyland brothers from New York, and that whole story. Devin lost a couple brothers. One of them was shot down, presumed dead, and then he did parachute into the wrong spot, but he heard about them and was kind of searching for him, whatever. So based on kind of a true story. And then my problem with this is, how the fuck did word get back so fast to these ladies on these typewriters? And then that one lady's walking around and like, they don't have computers. They have like paper everywhere. And she sees a name and she just happens to remember Ryan or whatever. And like, I didn't understand how they got it so fast. And it was D-Day +3 when they got the mission. So they're across the fucking ocean. So within 3 days in World War II, we're supposed to believe that they discovered this thing, and then they got the mission to these guys. And I don't know, just, it never sat right with me, and it always bugs me how quickly they got that. They discovered that Ryan was dead on the beach. There's fucking thousands of dead bodies on the beach, and they found it. And anyway, so that was my biggest issue with it.
And on that same note, the Lincoln letter that the general pulls out,
right?
The Modesto guy pulls out.
Harv President.
Lincoln talks about 5 soldiers that all died.
Uh-huh.
They ended up finding out that 2 of the guys were deserters. They weren't actually dead.
Really?
And another one was a prisoner of war and was still alive. So out of the 5 brothers that allegedly died in the Civil War, 3 of them were actually still alive. So only 2 had died out of the 5 brothers. So, so Lincoln. I mean, it's an actual letter, but it ended up being actual bullshit. So
Lincoln needs to check his sources before he writes his shit down. That's what you're telling me.
Dude, you should hear about all the shit in the Gettysburg Address that's bunk.
All right. Well, that's all of our Shag Snag body bag. I think it's time to everybody body bagged, right?
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to our next category.
Which button is it? Which is it?
This one.
Crackle, Pluto, HBO, find anime on Crunchyroll, Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Tubi, Sling TV, Showtime, Fubo. What the fuck is Fubo? I'm sure it'll cause a sensation. It's our streaming recommendation.
Streaming recommendation times. We're about to tell you a movie you can watch after watching Saving Private Ryan that maybe hits us the same way or has some type of similarity. What you got here, Nate?
So you kind of said it, and I like the way you put it, that like Saving Private Ryan flirts with both sides. It's kind of anti-war, but also kind of, indulges the heroism of when you're pushed, you kind of you do what you need to do. And the movie 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. I think when I first was gonna watch this, I expected it to be kind of, I don't know, just
a little jingoistic, like
something, and I thought it was like, it was, maybe it was a little bit that way, but it was both a little more complex in terms of its message and also just kind of like fun in a weird way. I mean, it's like a really entertaining watch. The war scenes are heavy, but not nearly as heavy as the opening of Private Ryan. But I find myself wanting to return to it a lot as an example of a kind of unconventional war movie that I like a lot. So it's on Paramount Plus, and you should watch it if you haven't seen it.
I have not.
You guys are all terrible.
I will
Good
never.
take.
That's definitely that's like the exact movie that I will never.
You're a
watch.
terrible person.
I mean,
I
I'll
appreciate
I'll never
you.
forget Benghazi. So just so you know.
I love a lot of things and real real life war movies that happened during the time I was alive. I'm just like, I'm out.
Well, you read about it probably in the news and stuff. So
No, not really.
Scotchback, what do you stream, my friend?
I'm gonna stream something. It's actually a limited series. It's not a movie, but
shit!
It's just
I know where you're going.
one of my all-time. It's so fascinating. It's so good. Band of Brothers on HBO Max, and it's with Memorial Day coming up, it's usually playing all day long on a couple channels. It seems like, and so it's just a absolutely fantastic cast. Amazing. Accounts of Easy Company, and one of the most prolific outfits that there ever was in the war. So
Did you enjoy the Pacific as well?
that was a rough watch. It was brutal.
A little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, it was good, and I don't think I've rewatched it one time. And I've watched Band of Brothers, the entire series, multiple times. And
Band of Brothers focuses a lot more just on Easy Company versus
Right.
the Pacific was like branched off between three different like main characters.
I think the same people that made those two are coming out with one that's about the Airborne Division.
Okay,
It's coming pretty soon, I think.
Sign me
All
up.
right, Zach, what you streaming, my friend?
This was an easy one for me because when I think of war movies and when I think of Denise Richards, I think of Starship Troopers, the 1997 Paul Verhoeven, just absolute.
That's a documentary, wasn't it?
Killer of a movie. It's based on a great book, a series of books. I mean, you've got Casper Van Dien, one of the most handsome men on the planet. You've got Denise Richards, probably the best looking woman.
Don't sleep
ever.
on Dina Meyer.
You've got Dina Meyer just fucking with her curly hair, rocking it. And anybody can watch it on Netflix.
Neil Patrick Harris, dude. You forgot about NBA.
What about what's his name's son, looking like exactly like his the exact same as his dad?
Jake Busey.
Oh, Jake Busey.
So
carbon copy of his dad.
Clancy Brown is the drill sergeant.
Clancy Brown's great.
Good one.
Medic.
1997. If you're 13 years old and a boy, pull this up on Netflix and watch it right now.
Good.
It's a wild one.
You will appreciate it.
Or a woman who likes boobies, which there are many.
I feel like this is a boy movie.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Yeah.
All the crazy propaganda, like the social media, like there's a lot of things that are like ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah.
And very much like criticisms of like the war machines and things like that. So.
Not even that, like just like the crazy sports that they play,
Dude, it's
on their home planet.
It's a much it's a much
wild
deeper
shit.
movie than
Yes.
you think.
And Brazil's like the center of like the world now. Like,
Buenos Aires
yeah.
is where they're from.
Yeah, I don't know why they're all speaking English and everything.
I don't know.
Who knows what's going on?
So go watch it. It's a much more serious watch than Saving Private Ryan. But
Real heavy.
if you're into some heavy fucking serious shit, go watch this movie.
And group showers.
Co-ed showers.
I'm going to go ahead and stream. I'm going to go ahead and recommend A League of Their Own. It's on Netflix, and I'm talking about the movie.
Jesus Christ.
And you might think, like, what the hell? We just talked about Saving Private Ryan, but there's a scene in Saving Private Ryan that kind of brings back a little bit of memory of A League of Their Own. League of Their Own obviously takes place during World War II.
No, it's the same universe. Yeah.
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 Literally, it's the same universe.
Are you helping me out, or what?
Jimmy, whatever his name is, his twin brother is a captain in the.
Jimmy Dugan.
Jimmy Dugan. Yeah, he's got his brother over there fighting, his twin brother. But no, Betty finds out that her husband's dead, and she gets the letter, and like it's kind of the thing because like a couple of them are not sure what happened to their husbands, and then I think it's Dottie. Or no, it's not Dottie. It's Gina Davis thinks that her husband might be gone.
Oh yeah, Bill Pullman.
Betty's husband was killed trying to save Private Ryan.
Right.
Yes,
So-
he was at Rommel.
Few people don't.
Betty
know that.
Spaghetti was married to Tom Hanks.
Yep,
I think so.
that's fact.
Wow.
Captain.
Shit.
Not even. I mean, his name or the actor.
Anyway, but no, that scene
Kit.
where she finds out it's very much like
it's brutal.
It's brutal and
Almost
same
as
thing.
bad as when Kit gets hit when she's playing catcher and she gets hit.
Unreal, and drops the ball on purpose.
She drops the
Crazy.
ball, and I'm just like, this is exactly like when that guy got stabbed.
But
Betty Spaghetti is Rob Reiner's daughter, though.
okay, I did not know that.
Who's Rob Reiner?
Son of a bitch. I knew.
But that would mean her grandpa's
Oh, you
Carl.
mean
correct?
you mean Carl Reiner's granddaughter? I don't.
Yeah.
Carl Reiner had a son.
All right, that's it for screening recommendations. Let's move on. Giggles.
No jet wash for Maverick, mixed up on that goose stick. Iceberg list Titanic, Leo's drawing that nude shit. Jim fucks Nadia like we all thought he should. Ricky and Doughboy get the fuck out the hood. Luke hooks up with Leia just like he's intending. It's time for a reshelf and alternate endings.
All right. In honor of Memorial Day, I'm not going to do Saving Private Ryan till dawn.
I think it's probably a good choice. I was thinking about it. And I was wondering how the hell you would do it.
But I'm going to go dark anyway.
Oh,
The way to get rid of my discomfort with Spielberg, Private Ryan dies.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, that's the obvious ending to this movie.
Or he's like already dead, or they get him and then he dies.
Well, that
no,
would put
they find him and then then he
dope.
dies.
I like
that would
actually
put
like
it
that
fully
a lot.
in like the anti-war movie, war movie.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I think I'm not sure about that in the sense that I don't think it's not an anti-war movie wholeheartedly. It's just it really returns to the beginning of the movie where like fucking shit's horrific and like
reality.
Lots of times there's just senselessness here, and a bunch of people die trying to save this one guy that they don't save, and
war doesn't care about this is your fourth son.
It doesn't. It doesn't care.
Oh,
right?
I like that.
Yeah. So I think you can still say, look, like, I mean, I think the undercurrent here, and Dan talked about it. At the end of the day, right, there might be things that just need to be done. And let's forget about the patriotism for a second, right? Like the fucking madman trying to take over the world and kill a bunch of people in terrible ways, right? Like somebody had to step up, like there has to be, and there's enormous cost to that. But I think maybe part of it is like it sanitizes that cost a little bit by having Private Ryan saved. It gets away from the horrificness of the beginning of the movie. I want to see him die in a really like terrible way.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe even in a very simple way, like in kind of almost like tragic. Llewellyn dying at the end of No Country, right? It's like it happens in just this.
It just
like,
happens.
Ryan's the guy that runs up. He lights his fuse too early on the greasy socks. It just blows up.
Gone.
That scene's still wild. The guy's like, "Hey, my fuse is." Oh no, I'm gone.
Oh, it'd be dope if he gets shot, falls into the ocean, and then a boat comes by and picks him up, and he can't remember who he was.
he's born.
Oh, and then it's the Bourne Identity 1955.
Same universe. He gets cryogenically frozen.
So
if we're doing mashups, I've got my own mashup here.
Oh, really?
When the half track gets blown up by the bazooka, when they first find Private Ryan,
I hope you don't steal my mashup.
we're gonna mix it up because it's not actually Private Ryan, but it's the goddamn Lieutenant Aldo Rain and the Bastards.
Oh, yes.
And they go, Captain Miller, he's got some questionable judgment. He did some things that pissed off his men, and he almost lost them at one point, but he's Tom Hanks, so he's able to talk them back onto his side. But they need a true mission. They need an actual mission. Aldo Rain and the Bastards have a mission, and it's killing Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just like, hey, this is what we do. And the guys are like, fuck Private Ryan. This sounds like way more like accomplishment. Like this is going to actually help us win
justice.
the war.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go fight with the Bastards. And so these Rangers join up with the Bastards and they just go fuck shit up and win the war.
Love it.
That's dope. That's not the mashup I was going for. So I'm going to go prequel. So we've got
World War I?
Yeah. Well, no, it's Tom Hanks. It's the same movie. And then Hanks, he gets to come home and
Wait, not a prequel. Then you're talking about a.
This is the movie, but it's going to be a prequel. Let me get there.
Oh shit!
So Hanks gets to come home, and he shows up. He's a little shell shocked. He's a little fucked up, and he goes and stays at a young woman's hotel bed and breakfast in Greenbow, Alabama. And he might bang a young Sally Field and have a slightly dim-witted son.
Oh, and this is the Forrest Gump origin story.
That's how Forrest Gump is brought to us.
Okay, well, no. Can I pivot?
I love it. Whatever you need.
He comes home, so he's a teacher.
The timing actually almost.
I know the timing works perfect.
No, he's a teacher in Greenbow, Alabama, that hooks up with Sally Field and then is shipped off. Forrest never knew his dad.
Exactly.
No, but I thought you were saying he comes home. Oh, I see. He comes home and then he goes off to war and dies.
Yeah, because he comes home in like 1946 or something like that, or whatever it is.
He's saying he doesn't. He's saying Captain Miller doesn't die.
No, what I'm saying is,
maybe he bangs her right before he leaves.
He's back there teaching.
Well, we know that she likes to bang like teachers and stuff, educators and stuff. So she bangs him too to get Forrest good grades.
But Forrest's already alive. Maybe she bangs him to get Forrest's older sibling that we don't ever meet.
Oh yeah,
no?
His older
Billy Gump,
his older sibling,
Billy Gump,
fucking Valley.
What?
Oh, that's good stuff.
Billy Gump. I had a younger brother named Billy.
Billy was smart.
I was just trying to figure out a way to make him Forrest's dad.
I think that works.
Yeah, I think it works.
Obviously Captain Miller has to survive.
Yeah,
that's pretty legit.
So I know you guys don't like the beginning and the end, but in mine, we're gonna keep it exactly the same with the beginning and the end in the cemetery. Okay, but at the end, when he turns to his wife and says, "Am I a good person?" And she, he says something else, and she goes, "No, you're a good person. You wouldn't have cheated on me with Eunice Miller," and starts fucking nagging at him and starts fucking going off on him. And I was like, "Well, you were that," and all of a sudden it kind of fades back. You can't really see anything.
She's just giving him
shit. It's like you're a piece of shit, and all of a sudden you hear a gunshot.
But it goes dark, and we don't know if he killed himself or if he
killed her.
Yeah.
And then Don't Stop Believing starts playing. It's all of a sudden it's The Sopranos. Love that ending.
Oh, I think we've been tempting fate here as far as like our crossing lines and
our
stuff.
respect.
Yeah. But
you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I never meant to disrespect The Sopranos like that.
Yeah.
David Chase, you asshole.
The only other way I wanted to take it was that somehow I wanted to bring Affleck into the universe, or like Affleck was gonna they would find him and then they would come out and then fucking somehow Affleck was the real.
Affleck could have played Steamboat Willie. How much of that take you out the movie if Ben Affleck was like the German? Betty Gable, nice games.
Does he have a fucking accent?
He has a Boston accent for some reason.
That was. Jesus Christ.
One of those Boston Germans.
Nice game.
Well, I think that was like he was like part of the Italian Boston crowd though, because that was not a traditional. He's not from Southie, no question. Not from Southie.
Oh man.
Well, a lot of crossover potential here for other franchises.
Oh geez. Well, this is what you get with BBK Podcast.
I'm going to say right now, I do not envy your editing job here because there's going to be 25 things you're going to have to cut out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to kind of focus on this one, I think.
A lot of laughing at the death of others.
Well, if you guys think of anything that you want me to take out, just, hit me a text.
Just cut most of the second half of the show. Right. Maybe the first half, too. Maybe we should just not release an episode.
Hey, next week we're going to do a draft.
Yeah.
It's going to be most memorable battle movie, war movie scene.
Most memorable war scene
throw
in a
all
movie.
those words you want, but it's just very simple. Yeah. Most memorable war scene in a movie.
Yeah. And we're gonna see how it goes.
It out. We'll argue it out. And Lieutenant Dan will be back to judge us.
LTD.
The Scotch bet coming off of a victory last week in questionable circumstances.
Yeah.
Always questionable.
And old shit ass over here
needs to get back in the game.
Back to
shit break.
To get back on get back on the horse. Shit break.
Shit break.
I love that you settled that because that is something I really imagine
it's shit break.
25 years.
I'll never accept that it's not shit break.
It's definitely shit break.
I'm never accepting it.
It makes 100% sense. Once
Just like I'll never accept that it's not big. Look at the big brain on Brad. I'll never accept that.
I have an amazing.
I don't care if his name's Brett.
I have an amazing.
He calls him Brad.
I have an amazing shit break story. When we ever do American Pie, you guys have to remind me to tell my shit break story because I have a fucking great one.
Well, you don't have not much longer to wait. We're probably within the next 6-7 movies.
We
Maybe.
do know
that soon. I don't think so.
We do know a guy who's in a band that had a song on the soundtrack that never made it on the soundtrack.
That's American Pie 2. Bro.
Oh my
And
bad.
it is on the soundtrack. It just didn't make it in the movie. Allegedly.
Is that what it was? It was on the soundtrack, but not on the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got fucking paid though, bitch.
She only likes me when I'm high.
June 24th. Get your tickets. Eventbrite.com.
I'll bet they'll play that. I'll bet they'll play that song.
Do you think?
I have a feeling we might.
I think
Smoky screen.
Are you going to play the 18-minute version? Because that's my favorite version.
Yeah.
If you do the long interlude where
slow.
Matt like stops and sits down and has a drink and then stands
Talks
back
to
up
the
and then
crowd for 10 or
continues
12 minutes.
continues it.
The length of songs and breaks in between are definitely the it depends on how many drinks he's
Depending
had.
on how fucked up Matt is.
What percentage of gigs have you played Smokescreen twice?
Oh, not very many. Not anymore.
That was early.
That was very early on. The very first night we ever played this, only played it 3 times. Wow. Including back to back.
And
That was
people
at
went
Charlie's,
crazy.
right?
At Charlie's.
Yeah,
First
I
night we
remember
played
that.
it. Yeah, people fucking were freaking out. It was weird. It was so weird.
All right, fellas, should we wrap this up? Because I'm going to go to bed and I'm not even going to clean up the equipment.
It's late as fuck.
I'm walking inside the second you hit the button and I'm going to bed.
I love you
All right.
guys.
What do you want to? We'll talk about what you want to do.
Unfortunately, we haven't been recording.
What do you mean what do I want to do?
Bye-bye.
Wait, have we been recorded?
No.
Shut your mouth.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind ride, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nazak and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.